Welcome to Unite Now, where we bring unity to you, wherever you are.
Welcome to our session with our webinar. My name is Brian Kenney. I'm a Unity certified instructor. I am based in Corona, California. I'm also a professor at Norco College in Norco, California, a teacher at Centennial High School in Corona, and I'm also director of a Unity authorized training partner called Immersive Education. Teaching with me, and he's going to go through all of the content with you today, is Alexei Othenin-Girard.
Very good, Brian.
You want to, hey, I've been practicing, man.
I'm super impressed. My name is not an easy one. Yeah, I'm Alexei Othenin-Girard. It's really nice to see everybody. I'm also a Unity certified instructor, a teacher, and a game designer. I have been teaching Unity in the classroom for about 4 years and have done a lot of work on curriculum development with Unity. So yeah, I'm very excited to be offering you guys this FPS, build your own FPS stuff. A couple of other things also. We're going to be using the FPS Creator Kit today. We'll show you how to download it and how to use it. But it's worth noting that this session is geared towards Unity beginners. The FPS Creator Kit lets you do a bunch of really cool stuff, but requires no code. So it's a really great way to get sort of like started with Unity. But this is not a good class if you are looking for a more in-depth look at C# or a more in-depth look at kind of the graphics pipelines or that stuff. We're really looking at that FPS Creator Kit. This is the first part of what will be a 6-week session on kind of getting people up and running with Unity, which I'm really, really excited about. For people who have not gotten a chance to use it yet, Unity is an incredibly powerful tool. It's very, very easy to use. So we're really excited to give you guys the tools that you need to start building cool stuff kind of right out the box. Let's roll forward. Let's introduce our incredible mod team.
You got it. Daniel, David, Alejandro, and there I am. I'm not a mod. Well, I'm going to be working with you guys. So we also have James there. These guys rock. They are all Unity certified instructors, and they are very talented people. If you have a question, make sure you drop it in the Q&A. The chat, as you'll notice, if you got it open, moves really fast. And it's hard to get to all the questions that are there in the chat. But if you drop your question in the Q&A for the moderators, as you see, we have a lot. They will be able to answer your question really fast, and those questions get recorded so we can get your questions as soon as possible. Moving on, here is a quick outline of our session. We are going to give you guys a quick welcome and session overview. We're going to go over the course, and then from there, Alexei will take over, and he will get the project set up, and we'll go through a nice in-depth but quick Unity editor overview. It's going to be very informative, and from there, we're going to dive in and use this FPS kit to design a simple game level that will have a little interaction. He will also go through a completed level as well, if you want to go through that. And finally, we're going to create our own prefabs. A lot of stuff that we are going to go over is very basic stuff, as Alexei said, and it's going to give you a good foundation to get started creating in Unity, which I think is my most favorite part, and I'm sure it's all of you out there. It's pretty amazing. Unity is an amazing tool. There's always something new to learn, but we're going to be covering it at a basic level today. Alexei's an educator. I'm an educator. What we like to do at Unity is we like to do the watch, do, explore learning. So watch. If you're new to Unity, it doesn't matter. You're going to learn something. You're going to learn how to get through the interface. You're going to learn how to create simple FPS levels. And while Alexei is demoing, what you need to do, just watch. It's a very informative workshop. And if you have any questions, like I said, drop your questions in the Q&A. The very talented moderators will get to you as soon as possible. And the most important is that you do. So you watch, then you do. We're probably not going to get to any of the explore stuff because we're going to be demoing a lot of stuff today, but that'll come into play more in maybe session 2, and for sure in session 3.
Yeah.
But make sure that you are watching and doing, and you can also, once we're done, you can go back and watch the recording. This recording will be posted, a recording of the session will be posted, so you can go back and review everything that you need to know. So moving along, if you're new to Zoom, probably the most ideal would be to have a 2-monitor setup or a dual monitor setup. But if you're on a single monitor, it's okay. Just make sure that you can see the demoing, maybe in the background. Have your Q&A open in the chat, and then have the video in the upper right corner of your screen over here. Like I said, if you I can't say this enough. If you have a question, make sure you're hitting up that Q&A panel for our very talented moderators. If you have a comment, a general comment, hit that up in the chat webinar panel. And keep an eye out for polls. We're going to have one coming up later on that Alexei will give to you. We love feedback here at Unity, so make sure you're providing that feedback in the form of a poll. So ground rules. General ground rule is one word: respect. Make sure you're respecting what's going on in the chat, and constructive. We're all here to learn, so and have fun. So be respectful and constructive, especially when you're dealing with the moderators, because they are working hard to get through your questions. Be ready to follow along, but be ready to ask questions in the Q&A. We're all here to help. So we are going to, as stated before, we're going to be using Unity 2019.3. Any dot after that will work. It's okay. But 2019.3, we know that the project works in that version. Okay. And then making the most of these sessions. Let's say you're new. Unity, if you look at the interface, can sometimes be very, daunting, but it doesn't. We're here to help. Make sure you just watch what Alexei is doing. If you're lost, it's okay. We'll get you the help you need. And if not, like I said, you can just go back and watch the recording. But there's going to be something here in this project webinar if you are new to Unity. We are, whatever your experience level is, you're going to learn something new in here. So again, technical questions, drop those in the Q&A, and general thoughts and comments should be dropped in the chat window. All right. So what is the FPS Creator Kit?
I think we actually need to skip a little bit forward, because I think we want to get to getting people to download the kit. So let's go ahead and move let's move forward a little bit, and we can talk about the kit as people are downloading it.
Yeah, that works great.
Okay.
So Unity Learn, I'll just go over this real quick.
Yeah.
Unity Learn, it's Unity Premium is free right now. I think we're well into that 3-month period, but there's still a lot of content there. It's amazing. Past beginner level, if you want to go to Unity Learn Premium, check it out. And if you want to join our Connect group, just go to that bit.ly right there. Just keep in mind that caps it is case sensitive, so make sure you type that in exactly how it is right there.
Just real fast, the intent of this beginner series is you're here at our first session of the beginner series, and we hope that you'll be able to join us for all 6 sessions, especially if you're very new to Unity and you just sort of want to get your feet under you. You want to start to like understand what this tool is. So please plan on being here at this time for the next 6 weeks. We're going to go over the FPS Creator Kit, and then we're going to do the Create an Action RPG game, where we'll dig into some more of the coding. And our intent here is to build a little community of people who can work together and learn together and share their work. So we will be sharing the work that you're building. We will get to see the levels that you're building. So we're both, Brian and I, are really excited to get to actually like get some feedback and get some design, see what you guys are designing.
Stick with it, everybody, because
Yeah.
I'm excited about session 4. I believe it's session 4 that we're going through the C# coding. So
Yeah, definitely.
That's my favorite thing to do. In the session, here's what you'll do. We're going to download the Creator Kit through the hub. Alexei's going to take you through exploring the Unity editor. You're going to design an actual simple game level. We're going to add enemy germs to the project. What this project is a human biology experiment. You have a brain, and you have a character, and you have many different targets that are germs. There's actually a stomach room too. So you are going to be going through a lot of the basic setup of creating your own level, and that's the best part. So without further ado, Alexei, the man, is going to take you through all the steps in this project. So take her away, man.
Okay, so I am going to take people through the process of downloading the Unity Hub. It should be pretty self-explanatory. For people who aren't familiar with the Hub is, Unity development moves quickly. New versions come out all the time, and the Hub is a place where you can gather all of the versions that are on your computer and see which project you have that's associated with which version of Unity and update them if you need to, et cetera, et cetera. So it can be a really useful tool. So we absolutely encourage everybody to grab it. I will say that if you are just downloading the Hub and Unity now, you probably won't have time to get all that stuff downloaded, get the project set up, and follow us along for the rest of this. So if you're just downloading the Hub now, that's great. Stay on, watch the session, and then when you've downloaded everything and the session is over, go back and rewatch it and follow along and do all the steps to like build the level and get the enemies in, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're just downloading the Hub now, it's likely that you won't have time to follow the rest of the session because it does take a while. The Hub is pretty small. You can get it at unity.com. So you can get it. Yeah, here's the list of steps. And it's very self-explanatory for the most part. You go to this address, grab the Hub, download it, click the Download Unity Hub button. You'll download an installer, select I agree if you like the terms, and then you will go through the installation process. If you are having trouble with downloading the Hub and installing it, please do drop questions in the Q&A box. So once you've grabbed the Unity Hub, now it's time to download the Unity editor. From inside the Hub, like I said, it should be pretty self-explanatory. You're looking for a version of Unity that is 2019.3 or higher. So in this case, 2019.3 point pretty much anything. Launch the Unity Hub, log in with your Unity ID if you have one, select the Installs tab, click the Add button. I'm actually going to go ahead and step you guys through that now so you can see what that looks like. So let's go ahead and on the Unity Hub, can everybody see my Unity Hub? Is that sharing correctly?
Yes, looks like it. Looks like you're good, man.
So to grab Unity 2019.3, what you want to do is launch the Hub, and then you're going to come down here to Installs, the Installs tab. And then up here, you see the Add button. And if you click that, you'll see a dialog pop up that shows you all of the versions of Unity that you can grab, all the sort of latest releases of Unity. So it looks like the latest release is 2019.3.14 F1, which you're welcome to grab, or you can get an earlier version if you like. There's also a link here to the download archive where you can grab grab earlier versions. So again, pretty self-explanatory, should be pretty easy. I'm sort of zipping through this because again, if this is stuff, if you are on these steps, please like go through them, take your time, do the downloads. Unity itself is a big download. It's a hefty program. It's very powerful. So in general, you're going to take some time. It's going to take some time to download. So definitely, budget some time for that. But I'm going to zip through these steps so that we can get into the meat of like using the FPS Creator Kit. Our next step is once we've gotten Unity, we want to go ahead and grab that Creator Kit. So you'll see here there's a Learn tab just above installs, above Community, above installs. And in that Learn tab, you'll see that Creator Kit FPS. It should be right in that list of projects. And if you click on it, you can download the project, and that will import the project, unspool it, and build a new project for you in Unity. So, once you've downloaded the hub, once you've downloaded Unity 2019.3, once you've downloaded the Creator Kit FPS, you can do that in 5 or 6 clicks, and you'll have all of the assets that you need to play with this Creator Kit. Definitely depending on the sort of beefiness of your machine, it might take a little while to download. It is, like I said, it's a lot of assets, it's a lot of code that you have to like bring into your machine. But as the process to get it is very simple, and once you've got it, then we can dig in and we can start actually building stuff. I'm going to go ahead and since many people probably, even people who've downloaded Unity, probably don't have the FPS Creator Kit just yet, I'm going to pause us here for just a couple minutes, make sure that people have a chance to download that Creator Kit, get a project started, and then I'm going to tab over to the Creator Kit itself, and we can dig into it and actually start. We're going to start by playing a finished level, a pre-made finished level in the editor, and get to see what that looks like.
And that's the fun part. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. Playing the game is fun. Making the game is really fun. Let me actually, since we're sort of paused here for just a second, let me talk about what the Creator Kit FPS actually is. So again, for people who are coming to Unity really new, the Creator Kit is a bundle of assets and scripts. Some of those scripts are sort of built to affect your Unity itself, your Unity project itself. Some of them we'll use in the game. But effectively what they do is they give us a very, very powerful drag and drop editor for building out a first-person shooter level. So like Brian said, we have sort of a set of discrete assets. We have rooms, corridors, enemies, keys, and doors. I think that's pretty much, there might be a couple of power-ups as well, but like the meat of it, we're going to place some rooms, we're going to place some corridors, we're going to place some enemies, we're going to place a door and a key, I think next week. We probably won't get to doors and keys this week. But basically, without having to do any code, without having to do any kind of like fiddling, the assets are all there. We're just going to snap them together, right? This is sort of like cooking from a pre-made kit. Right? We don't have to make any of the ingredients. We've gotten the ingredients, and now we just get to put the meal together. Which I think for people who have not used the FPS Creator Kit yet, it's a lot of fun, and it's incredible how quickly you can come up with like fun levels, cute ideas, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so hopefully by now people have kind of gotten into gotten into the FPS Creator Kit, you've downloaded it, and I'm going to go ahead and actually show you what it looks like from inside of Unity. So if you have just downloaded, double checking my Unity is displaying okay, everybody can see my Unity screen. Brian, it looks good?
Yeah, it looks good, man.
Perfect. So if you have just started this project, you probably are looking at something like this. this is our standard Unity, sort of our default Unity layout. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of talk through a little bit of what you're seeing here. Again, if you are very new to Unity, this is all stuff that's, this is our ground floor ramp up getting into things. So what are we actually looking at? Well, here in the center of the screen, this is what's called my scene view. This is going to show me everything that's in my scene. So everything that the player is going to see, all of the assets, all the levels, all the enemies, all that stuff, that's all going to be represented in here. And from in here, I can manipulate anything, right? Any object that I have in my scene, I can move it around. I can decide where it's going to go. I can decide what it's going to look like and how it's going to function. Over here on the right, this is my hierarchy. This is a list of all of the stuff that's showing up in my scene view. So that hierarchy, the scene view, right, is like a bird's eye view of what's actually in your game. The hierarchy, that's a list. That's a list of everything that's in this scene. Over here, and I'll go a little bit deeper into all of these as we get into it, but I'm just giving you guys an overview now. Over here on the right, this is our inspector panel. Every asset that we encounter, every object that lives inside of Unity, it's made up of a series of what are called components, these, and those are all visible in the inspector tab. So sort of like if the objects here in my hierarchy are the things in the scenes, on the inspector tab, I'm seeing inside those objects. I'm kind of seeing their guts, right? What information makes them up? One thing you'll notice is every object has a transform that represents its position in space and inside the Unity scene. And like you see, I can grab this and move this around. This is my directional light. And you'll see that as I move it, its position attributes change, right? Its location, its position in space literally changes. I can also go in here and adjust its position manually by playing with all of these numbers. So I can overwrite the numbers, I can grab them and move them, or I can grab and move the handles that let me move an object around my scene. Okay, last thing down here, this is our, I'll do two. This is our project, right? So this is all of the art, all of the assets that are in our whole game. Games are made up of scenes, but not every asset, not every object is going to be in every scene. So the project menu, the project tab, this is where we keep all of the information on, what's all of our art. Oh, here we can see that there's an art folder, and this has all of our art assets, right? And if we open this up, we can see, here's some enemies. There we go. There's a little blood cell, right? We might be able to use that later. In fact, we will, but we'll be using the prefab version, not the art version. We'll go into that. Okay, so if we want to just kind of see what this game looks like, we're going to go into the Creator Kit. We're going to go into the Creator Kit folder, and then inside that, there's a folder called Scenes, and there's a scene called Example Scene. So let's go ahead and open up the example scene. I don't want to save the changes I made because this is just an untitled scene. This is just our default scene. So I'm not going to save those, and instead I'm going to open up the example scene. So this, now you can see that what has spawned out, oh wow, look at all that stuff, right? This is a completed game level. All of the stuff that we're going to build over the course of the next 2 weeks and then share out in week 3, this has all been placed for us in this example scene. And to top it all off, if we want to play it, all we have to do is press this little play button. So, oh no, I have compiler errors. Oh dear. Okay. Let me do a quick, let me actually go ahead and take you back to the, slides, and I can show you, this is the steps to go ahead and play through that example scene. And why doesn't everybody do that? While I figure out what these compiler errors are and why they're messing me up.
Well, and also one of the things I like about the Unity interface is that you can fully customize it, the layout, whatever way you want. So in the upper right-hand corner, there is a way for you to access some presets, like a 2x3, a 4 split. You can also grab any of the tabs in the editor interface and dock them wherever you want. Me personally, when I am working in Unity, I like the hierarchy next to the inspector because a lot of times I'm clicking and dragging objects into the inspector.
Oh, interesting.
In public variable slots. So
oh yeah, that's a good idea.
It's sometimes good because there's a lot of dragging all over the place. However you work, Unity will allow you to customize that to whatever way you want. And that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. The same thing happened at a more broad scale. The same thing happened with the FPS kit. The FPS kit is a set of customized assets that was created by Unity for you guys to use.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the customizability of the Unity editor is definitely one of its strong suits. And as Unity developers, you should feel free to really get into, how do I work best? What makes a good workflow for me? And moving those assets around and making sure that, or moving those windows around, making sure that you're seeing kind of like what elements of Unity do you need to put kind of next to each other. That's really, really helpful. So yeah, as you can see, the assets that we've got, the level that we've got, it's pretty complete. We have a character that moves around, we have some weapons, we have enemies, we have some obstacles, we have, environments that the character can move through. All that stuff is like already right there in the it's already right there in the code. It's already right there in the project. So, all we're going to do when we get into it is start snapping things together and making sure that we're able to use those assets together to make a really exciting level. So, the thing that I will encourage you, the thing that I might challenge you to do, as you guys, especially at the end of this session, because we're going to be coming back next week and working a little bit deeper, I encourage you guys, go crazy, take some time, give yourself a couple hours this week, just play with play with what you have available to you in the creator kit. You're going to test out what it looks like to build different corridors, test out what it looks like to build different room configurations, put enemies in different configurations. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I want to actually kind of like move us a little bit forward. Once we get into the FPS Creator Kit, once it's downloaded, once you've tested it, it's crucial. The next step that's really important is, of course, we need to start building stuff on our own. What you will see is up at the top in the menu bar, there's a new menu object called FPS Kit, and go ahead and click on that, and then choose Create a New Scene and save your scene as my scene. That step of making a new scene and saving it, the FPS Creator Kit kind of asks you to do that right off the bat, right? When you make a scene, it asks you to save it. When you're working in kind of standard Unity, when you create a new scene, it's really important that you save it right off the bat. Save it and give it a name right off the bat. Because if you can work in a new scene and not actually have your work save if you close or if you lose your work, if your computer crashes, et cetera, et cetera. And that's no fun for anybody. That's just a big old bummer. Making a new scene should be pretty simple. And you'll see when you create that new scene, you'll see that it actually brings in a bunch of game elements here on the left in the hierarchy. Those are all kind of preloaded game elements, and we'll use some of them to move through this project, and we'll use them to like snap our corridors together. There we go. Whew. I apologize for that taking so long for everybody. Here we go. We have a fresh, clean install of the FPS Creator Kit. It is beautiful. We're going to go ahead and start here with this FPS kit. Going to go ahead and create a new scene, save it as my scene, And then you'll see here in the scenes folder, right? My scene now exists inside the scenes folder, and it's saved and it's built and it's lovely. And the scene is empty except for this start checkpoint, right? This start item. This is the start checkpoint. This is a brain room. Let me see if I can figure out what the actual. Yeah. So, yeah, here we go. It's the brain room, right? So now that we have a new scene over here on the left, this is the character object, right? We can see that if I select it here in the hierarchy, you'll see that that character object selects here in the scene as well, right? So I know that if I deselect both, they both deselect. If I select the character in the hierarchy also selects. So just be clear that those two are the same, right? This is the visual representation of the character object that we see here inside the hierarchy. And like I said before, over here on the right in the inspector, these are all of the characters. This is all the characters, all the characters scripting, all the characters components. They're all over here. We can dig into some of the children of the character object if we want to. You'll see that the main camera is a child of the character object. So there's the character, then there's the character root, then there's the main camera, then there's the weapon camera. Who knows what that is? But yeah, everything that's that character is all here. Under game system, you'll see we also have a bunch of stuff. Let's see. So now that we've gotten our scene set up, oh right, we should navigate around a little bit. So the navigation in Unity, the easiest way to navigate in Unity is through a mouse. It's unfortunate that I don't have a camera that will show. I guess I do. That will show my mouse. For the most part, your left mouse button is your selector, right? Just how we'd expect it to be. If you click on an object in a scene, it will select with your left mouse button. But then your right mouse button, you'll see if I hold down the right mouse button, my cursor turns into an eye. The right mouse button is the view button, right? My camera stays fixed in space, but it changes my point of view. And note that as long as I hold down that button, I can actually zoom. I can zoom off the edge of the screen. I can zoom, in any direction I want. Be careful because it is easy to turn your camera upside down if you're not sort of comfortable or familiar with what you're doing. And that can get very disorienting if you're something like, what am I doing? I'm upside down. Okay, so the middle button, the scroll wheel, has a couple of functions. If you scroll in and out, you'll zoom in and out of the scene. And if you hold that scroll wheel down, now my cursor becomes a hand, and I can grip, right? And I can move myself around the environment by gripping and moving laterally. So I encourage everybody to go ahead and take a second and give yourself, especially if you're not familiar with Unity, give yourself the challenge, rotate all the way around this environment by switching your view, panning your view, and then gripping and turning, right? You turn by changing your viewpoint, and then you use the middle mouse button to grip and move yourself around the scene. You can also, up here on the upper left, you can use the hand tool, and that just changes your left mouse button into a hand. You can grab and move. Zoom in, zoom out, grab and pan are the basic, those are all of the basic Unity sort of controls. One last thing, and then we'll get into designing a level, is if I double click on any object in the hierarchy, Unity will basically will sort of zoom me towards it. So it doesn't matter how far away I am, right? I'm zooming way, 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 way out. If I double click on this character, Unity will zoom me in so that I can see the character. And again, if you're getting lost, if you're stuck, if you don't know where you are, double clicking in the hierarchy will bring you back to somewhere familiar. Okay, so next we want to go ahead and get into creating a corridor. So in order to do that, we're actually going to go ahead and use this object that we already have prefabricated here in the hierarchy. So this is the level layout object. This is something that the FPS Creator Kit designers have built for us. It's not part of standard Unity. It's specific to the FPS Creator Kit, but it's an object that the designers press that's going to let us build levels really quickly. So if I click on it, you can see that over here in the inspector, it has a transform. It's set to the origin. It's at 000, which is perfect. And then down here, we have the level layout script. This is a special script that's built that's on the level layout object. And it's going to let us actually drag and drop. Actually, not even drag and drop. We're just going to be able to click into place all of the environments that we need. So in order to do that, the first thing we're going to do is click on this corridor group. And when you click on the corridor group, you can see that we have two controls, add and remove. And then we have these 5 rooms. And right now they look like kind of purple blobs. But if you click on one, what you can see is that it actually just drops itself into the scene. And then I can move it around. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit on this. So what you can see, this corridor, it's like a little 4-way split, right? It's all it is basically a small empty room with four exits. One of the really nice things about the Creator Kit is that it actually will snap into place. I'm just gliding my mouse, I'm hovering my mouse back and forth, and the potential, it's snapping this corridor right into where they're going to connect to this big brain room. So if I go ahead, I'm going to show you a couple of the other corridor options. So we have a longer room. We have a corner that turns, and you'll note here it says press R to change which door the room uses to connect to the other room. If I press R, it will rotate. What's actually happening is it's switching which door is being connected. We have a Y connector here if I want to make the corridor split. And again, I can also press R to change which direction, which door is being connected to. And then finally, we have this like little bitty, this is the smallest 4 connector. This is just like a little tiny room with 4 doors leading out. So I think what I want to show you guys is I'm going to put a corridor on each end of my brain room, right? So now I have 2 exits leading out in each direction from my brain room. And I'm just going to place a couple more of these in the environment. And then if I click off of the level layout, boom, now my levels are actually all, my rooms are actually all connected. And you'll see that from inside, what used to be, these doors used to be closed, they're now open. Because our FPS Creator Kit knows that we want these rooms to actually connect to each other. So it's very quick and very easy to build like very complex corridors, right? If I click back on level layout, I go back to the corridor group, I'm going to put a branching pathway here, and then, a couple of branches that lead off of it. It's taken me 5 minutes, and now my player has 1, 2, 3, 4 different environments to explore, 4 different sort of like passageways to move down. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch us back so that you guys can see the the steps on how to actually create this. So again, select level layout in the hierarchy. In the inspector, you want to choose that corridor group button, select one of the corridors provided, and I showed you all 5. Hover your mouse over the desired location of your new corridor, and then left click to place. It's literally that simple. And then go ahead and add other corridor pieces to make it as big or as complex as you want it to be. So I want to give people a minute to kind of get through this, and play around with adding and removing corridors if you want to, right? It's if you toggle that remove button here instead of the add button, you'll be able to click on a corridor section and have it delete, have it remove from your scene. So it's very, very quick and easy to build levels. And this is where we start getting into, because we don't have to worry about coding, we don't have to worry about assets, we can dig right into kind of like some of the game design stuff, right? Like what makes interesting corridors? What makes an interesting maze for people to explore? So, definitely flex your designer brain as well as your engineer brain as you're building this stuff. Think about, how, can I make a player double back? Can I make a player, make the wrong choice and be punished for it? Can I make the player make the right choice and be rewarded? These are all, some pretty basic but really important game design elements, game design questions that we want to keep asking ourselves as good designers.
So Alexei, some people might like freak out because the textures are missing.
Yeah.
So it's okay. It's still going to work well when you are designing your level.
100%. Yeah. If in the level layout you're just seeing those pink spots, that's just a bug. It's not a big deal. Your corridors will still place correctly. I see that there's one question here that asks, how did we get the main head? And all we want to do there, here, I'll go back to sharing my Unity so that people can see and take us through that step again. So remember, if all you're seeing here is a blank screen, what that tells you is that you haven't started a new scene. So you want to go ahead and go into this FPS kit menu, create a new scene, name it my scene, and that should show what you're looking for. Okay, let us move forward. So we're going to go ahead and create a room. Creating a room is exactly the same process, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. But it's very much, we go ahead and click into the level layout. So I'm going to go into level layout. I'm going to click the room group now instead of the corridor group. And you'll see there are 3 different rooms available to us. There's the brain room, which we already have one of, but we could duplicate if we wanted to make a body with lots of brains. That might be cool and fun. There's a heart room, and there's this stomach. There's this like digestive stomach room. And again, the process is the same. We select the room that we want. We hover our mouse somewhere over the scene to determine where we want to place that room. You can press R to make the room kind of connect to a different door, and then just click the mouse in order to place the room, right? And very quickly you can see, oh, okay, now I've added the heart environment, I've added the stomach environment, and I've added another brain environment. And we can keep making these more complex if we want to, just by basically like hovering and dropping corridors and rooms into our environment. I'm not going to spend too much more time here because I do want to get us a little bit further on, because we do need to go ahead and drop some enemies into this game, right? We have our corridors, we have our environments. Now we have to get an enemy in. So in order to grab an enemy, we do want to go into this prefabs menu. Now, we'll get a little bit deeper into prefabs when we next week, so I'm not going to do an in-depth discussion of them right now. But the thing to remember about a prefab is effectively what a prefab is it is a set of assets, scripts and models that have been kind of like bound together by Unity into a discrete unit, which Unity, we can then tell Unity, hey, give me another prefab, like make another one of this. And Unity knows exactly how to do that. And then in order to get our prefabs into our environment, so we want to make sure that we're in the prefabs folder. This is important because in the art folder, there are models that look like our germ slime model and our germ spike model, which we're going to be seeing later. So we do not want to use the models. Those models, they're like statues, right? They don't have any of the animation. They don't have any of the scripts. So make sure that you're not using the models. but instead that you're in this prefabs folder inside the targets folder, and then go ahead and grab that germ slime and just drag it anywhere in your hierarchy, or anywhere in your scene view window. Sorry. You'll see that when we dragged it into the scene view, it's like kind of half in and half out of the floor. We could leave it like that, but it's not a great look. So I'm going to go ahead and connect and click on this move tool here, which will give me those nice arrows. And then I can just drag it up into the scene. So when we drag it, because basically of where Unity thinks this object's center of mass is, when we drag it into the scene, it's always going to be sort of half in and half out of the ground. And as designers, we just want to make sure that we're going to go ahead and grab that and pull it up into the scene proper, so that everybody can see the beautiful repulsiveness of these germ slimes. They're great enemy models because they look really gross, and you see them and you're like, I want to shoot these. That's what makes really good enemies.
Yeah, those things need to be up above, because if they're stuck in the floor, they will fall off into nothingness.
Right, exactly. Yeah. They might fall.
Which might be cool.
They might get stuck in the floor, which is never a good look for your enemies.
Right.
So again, we're going to grab the germ slime target prefab from the project window and move it into the scene view, and then just go ahead and use that move tool to reposition the enemy above the floor. So because we have these prefabs, it's just a matter of dragging and dropping them into the scene. It's very, very simple. I'm going to move forward because hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory. And here you can see that if I have one of these germ slime targets selected, so first of all, we moved 3 into our scene, right? And you'll notice that Unity has actually changed the names because we have 3 identical models. We need to be able to uniquely identify them. So the first one that we dragged in was germ slime target. The second one is germ slime target 1, and the third one is germ slime target 2. And that just lets us tell them apart one from the other. You'll see over here on the right-hand side in the inspector, down here, you'll see this thing called the target script. This is actually the script that tells Unity, oh, this is an enemy, and here are the things that it needs to function as an enemy in your game. And the things that we can play with most easily, all of our germ slime targets have already been set up. They have a health value, and they have a point value. The health value is how much damage they can take before they die, and the point value is how many points the player gets when they kill them. So go ahead and have just practice changing these values for now. So when we change our health value, we can say, oh, this germ slime target is going to have a health of 10 actually, and then this germ slime target is going to be worth 500 points. And you'll see that these numbers are bolded. That tells you, the designer engineer, you, the Unity user, that I've changed them from the base values that are in the prefab, right? So the prefab has prefabricated. It has like they're not auto-generated, but they're hard-coded base values for health and point value. If I change them, I can, because I'm the designer. But if I change them, when I change them, if they're bolded, that reminds me, oh, I adjusted these values. So you can set all of your germ slime targets to have the same health. You can set them all to have different health. You can set them to have the same point value. You can set them all to have different point values. That's totally up to you. From a design standpoint, if you have higher health, it probably should have a better point value. I'm breaking my own rules here because I have a germ slime target that has a very low health and a very high point value, but sort of don't do this thing. But in general, as you're playing around with the creator kit, test out different things. What are these like really basic enemies that the player should be able to defeat very quickly and easily? Bring the health way down. Are these kind of tougher boss monsters that are really going to give the player a tough time? Bring the health up. Bring the point value up, etc., etc. So again, once you've selected that germ slime target in the hierarchy, On the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to see that in the inspector, you'll see that target script, which has all of that information about how that germ slime target is going to act in that world, act in the game. So change the health stat to make it harder to destroy, change the point value stat to make it worth more. Then we're going to go ahead and actually create a new enemy prefab, right? We're going to build a whole new prefab. Now we do want to go ahead and grab that model rather than the art. We want to grab this germ spike model. So this is going to be our second. So our first enemy is the germ slime, right? The slimy slug-like germs. The second one is a germ spike. This is a spikier version of the germ. It's one thing to note. Be careful that you want to make sure that you're grabbing the germ spike that has this little arrow, this little triangle next to it. Click that out. That shows you that this germ spike is actually already all set up as an avatar. This one that doesn't have it, this is actually just, again, this is like a statue. Like this hasn't been set up to like move, hasn't been set up to have animations. This is just a static image. We want to grab this germ spike model. And once we've got the germ spike model in our environment, you'll see it has an animator, but right now, all it is literally, it's just an image. It's a little bit like a hologram. Unity doesn't know anything about it except it's here and it looks like this. But if we want our players to interact with it, it needs two really important things. It needs to have a collider, which tells Unity, oh, you touched the edge of this thing. And it needs to have a rigid body, which tells Unity, oh, this thing is going to move in space and it's going to be affected by physics. So both of those are here in the physics menu, and I'll talk about how to get there. This button, when we have an object selected in the hierarchy, in the inspector at the bottom, we have the add component button. This is an incredibly powerful part of Unity because if we click it, we get this very extensive menu with lots and lots of submenus that have a ton of different pre-made components that Unity's already created for us to be able to just slap on our objects to get them to do what we want them to do. So we're going to click on the add component button. We're going to look in the physics section of the add component button. And we're going to go ahead and grab this could be, we'll make it a sphere collider. Right? That collider tells Unity this is where the edge of this object is. And then, so we're going to need to tweak these in just a second, but we're going to grab a collider and then back in the physics menu, we're also going to get a rigid body. That rigid body is telling Unity, hey, apply physics to this object. So before we can stop, you can see, if we get real close, you see this round shape. This is the collider. This tells Unity where it thinks the edge of this object is. But as you can see, that collider, it's like half in and half out of our germ slime, our germ spike, right? It's not even really inside of it. It definitely doesn't define the edge of this object. So we're going to go here and we're going to change. We're going to start by moving the center of the sphere up, and then we're going to increase the radius of the sphere so that it's just hitting the edge of the germ slime. Now you see how that radius object, now you see how that sphere collider object better defines the edge of this germ slime. Now when the player runs into it, they won't clip through it or hit it kind of early, right? If they shoot at it, their shot will register near where that object is in space. If you look here back on our old germ slimes, they also have these capsule colliders, and the capsule colliders are adjusted so that they also do a good job of sort of showing the edge of that object. So that's a really important step. That's a really important part of making if we're going to make a new object, we need to make sure that it has I did the rigid body first. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. I'll go back to the rigid body in a second, but here's the sphere collider stuff that we just went into. So same process. You're going to grab the sphere collider, add the component using the add component button, and then set the center property in Y, set that up to 0.95 so that the sphere collider is inside the germ rather than below it, and then adjust the radius field so that it's like a cage around the object, right? Rather than being like inside or outside of it. And then, okay, we'll need to add the target component. I did this all out of order and I apologize. So let's go ahead. Actually, let's go back and talk a little bit briefly about what we need to do here on the rigid body, because there's a couple of components that we need to add to the rigid body. So again, we're gonna go ahead and select our germ spike model. And on the rigid body, we don't want to use gravity because these things float. And we do want to use is kinematic because they're not going to be deformed by physics. So they're just kinematic. And then the last thing that we're going to add is in scripts, we want to go ahead and add this target script, right? And that, again, like we saw on the germ slime targets, that target script will tell us, hey, this is a target, this is a valid object that that the player is going to interact with, that the player is going to be able to fire at. And we can go ahead and change the base values if we want to, right? We can say this has 5 health and is worth 500 points. Okay, now our last step is to go ahead and grab. So now that we've set up our prefab, we go back into our targets. Folder, and we're going to grab the germ spike model and drag it down into the prefabs folder, and we're going to make an original prefab. Boop, and now I have a germ spike prefab, and just like the germ slime, I can drag it out into the scene. So I'm going to go over both of those steps. I'm sorry I did them out of order, but I'm going to go over both of those steps again really quickly, and then I think we are pretty much done.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so, right, creating a new enemy prefab, we're going to drag and drop the germ spike from that project window into the scene view, again, from the models characters folder, and make sure that you grab the one that has the models attached, has a little triangle on it. Click the add component button to grab the rigid body. It's in the physics menu, or you can type rigid body into the search bar. Click on rigid body to add it to the germ spike. Don't use gravity, but do use is kinematic. Then once you've got that set up, now we need to make it a target. We want to add a sphere collider component in the add component menu. Move the center of the sphere collider so that it is set inside the object. Adjust the radius field so that it's a nice cage, a nice tight cage around the edge of the model. Add the component and add the target component. And then drag and drop the target back into the prefabs folder. So, once you have your prefab set up, it has a rigid body. It's set to use gravity, not use gravity, and it is kinematic, and it has a good sphere collider that's like right nice around it. Then you're going to drag and drop it into the prefabs folder. And that's the process for making a prefab. We build something in the editor until it's the way that we want it to be, and then we drag that into the prefabs folder or into the project folder, and it makes a prefab. Okay. Hopefully, this has been a valuable session for you guys. You've learned a lot about how to use the FPS Creator Kit. Like I said before, I very strongly encourage you, take a couple minutes, give yourself a couple hours, really. Play around with this, right? Test the base level, which we didn't get around to seeing, but test the example level and see what that looks like, and then start building stuff on your own. Feel free to snap some corridors together, play around with how they snap together, put some rooms together, build some enemies, populate your rooms with enemies, play through your levels. If you press that play button, you'll actually zip right into the environment. So here I'm pressing the play button on my game, and here I am in the environment that I've built, and I can I can fire at these guys. I can run around. I can jump. I can explore these corridors. I went down the one set of corridors that I didn't put anything in. But yeah, I mean, all of this stuff is built and it's available to you. And now all you guys have to do is start playing with it. Next time,
in as little as an hour.
yeah,
That's amazing.
it's really pretty incredible. Next time we're going to go over how to put doors and keys down, which adds an interesting wrinkle to the design of the environment. We're also going to talk about how to build kind of an end of level like checkpoint.
Yeah, we need some more game mechanics in this thing.
Yeah, definitely. Again, like if you need to, don't hesitate to rewatch this session, which is going to be posted. It's under bit.ly/prev recordings, PREV recordings. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't hesitate to hit us up, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place, part 2. It's going to be great.
Thanks, everybody.